Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that comes up a lot in the fitness world, and it's always a lot of people who advocate calisthenics, and then I get people who ask me about calisthenics and why I don't advocate it, and let me kind of break that down as to the argument between barbell training and calisthenics. Now, some people are always going to say invariably, well, you can always do both. Well, you can't do both as a primary training form. In other words, you can't focus on doing 1,000 dips and push-ups every day and work on the bench press and the strict standing press. You're not going to be able to train both as primary exercises. I'm not saying a person can't mix and match, but you're going to have to generally pick one versus the other. And the problem is that a lot of the people who push calisthenics or want me to comment on it seem to advocate it as some superior form of training. So let's kind of break that down. And so there's some confusion here also. When people talk about calisthenics, that does not include weighted exercises. In other words, the moment you throw a barbell on your back, it's no longer a calisthenic style squat, it's now a barbell squat. When you do a weighted chin up with a 25-pound plate hanging around your waist, it's no longer calisthenics. You've added resistance beyond your body weight. Now, for those of us who understand training, even the most rudimentary aspects of training, people would say, well, what's the difference? It's just a body weight exercise with weight added. You're still doing the movement. But no, that's now weighted resistance training. All right, that is now weighted resistance training. And when people who discuss calisthenics specifically, that's not what they're talking about. That doesn't count as calisthenics. Calisthenics is using your body weight itself in a variety of situations. Now, what people need to understand is that it becomes immediately apparent that the people who are discussing this are generally just upper body specialists. In other words, no amount of one-legged pistol squats is going to give you the back and leg and glute development that you're going to get from barbell deadlifts or barbell squats. You're not even going to get in the ballpark. They're not even going to be remotely close. So essentially, calisthenics is discussion of upper body talk, maybe with a tiny bit of lip service towards your lower body, which also explains why a lot of these calisthenics guys are able to perform some of these feats of strength and everything with their legs put out in certain directions and human flags and things, because they don't have as much leg mass, so therefore they don't have those same levers pulling them down. So it's actually easier for them versus someone with full body development. Now, this isn't to say that calisthenics don't have their benefits, because we kind of come back to that other point. Usually, what do we say about exercises that move the body through space? Exercises that move the body through space are generally very good exercises. They tend to be relatively normal, natural movement patterns that your body handles very well. They tend to involve not just the primary movers, they tend to bring a lot of stabilizers in. For example, we even know that the chin-up, plain old chin-up, works the abdominals tremendously. It is a tremendous abdominal exercise. Even though we would think of it as a bicep and a lat and a rear delt exercise and all that, it works the abdominals very hard. It works the upper pecs, not as much as say an incline bench or an overhead press, but it works them. Also works the long head of the tricep. So it brings a lot of extra little muscles in. So I mean, there is some merit to the idea that bodyweight exercises, just again due to their nature, particularly for when performed with full range of motion, bring a lot to the table. But the problem is that when we start talking about calisthenic training, you need to understand we are not talking about full body training. You are essentially talking about upper body training. So right off the bat, this cannot compete with barbell exercises, because barbell exercises allow you to train your entire body. And if you want to compare not just overall size development, but let's discuss athleticism. Who's going to be more athletic? A guy who does tons of dips and chin-ups and handstand push-ups and all sorts of stuff, versus a guy who deadlifts 3 times their body weight, a guy who squats 2.5 times their body weight, who can power clean 1.5 times their body weight. Now you go ask a coach who has to scout people for the NFL which one of those guys they want. Again, the power clean is one of the biggest measures of athleticism. You look at how much an athlete can power clean, That's what a strength and conditioning coach starts looking at. That's the sort of stuff they want to see to know how good of an athlete a person really is, how much power they can generate through their entire body. When you're looking for like a field athlete, that's what we look for. Vertical jump, power clean, things like that. And that's the reality of it. There is no exercise that only works half of your body that is going to help you become a fantastic athlete or be more athletic or have better overall fitness and strength. I mean, it's really tough to beat things like barbell squats, push presses, power cleans. So right off the bat, when we're looking at the movements available, calisthenics simply cannot compete. Now, when it comes to the whole point of upper body training, calisthenics just gives you less tools available. Barbells allow you the ability to micro-load. They allow you the ability to program your training. It's just like I discussed in the video on dips versus barbells the other day, like the bench press, barbell bench press. There are areas in which the barbell bench press wins out against the dip, and it's not that the dip isn't a fantastic exercise. From a muscle recruitment perspective, we could argue reasonably that the dip might be slightly superior to the bench press, right? There's a good argument to be made there. The problem becomes one of programming. The ability to micro-load, the ability to have a controlled, constant range of motion, that makes the bench press a better training tool for your training programming. Therefore, you're more easily able to ensure your results and progression. It's easier to periodize, and again, because the ability to micro-load and perfectly adjust the amount of resistance in fractions of a percent, if need be, in order to follow a proper training protocol. When you get with a dip, you don't have any options. You can either dip a little lower maybe to make it harder. You can lean forward more or less. You don't have control. All you have is reps and volume. That gives you a hell of a lot less tools to work with. Doesn't mean the dip isn't good, but you see the problem. Same thing with a chin-up. Yeah, sure, arguably you'll get pretty strong. You'll get pretty decent biceps. If you can do 20 dead hang chin-ups, you're probably going to have pretty decent biceps and back development. But do you really think you're going to get the same development you could get by hanging a 100-pound plate off doing chin-ups and getting strong enough to do so? Again, the ability to micro-load. But then we go over to the same thing. You can micro-load even easier with barbells. And you have more movements available. Again, if you're looking for total back development, sure, chin-ups are great. Weighted chin-ups are great. But when you have a lot more tools available, such as the ability to do power cleans, deadlifts, barbell rows, variations of the barbell row, you have a hell of a lot more tools available. You have way more movement patterns. You have more variation in movement patterns. You have access to exercises that work the back with the entire body. You have the ability to micro-load and fine-tune the amount of weight to follow a proper training protocol that's far easier to program. You have a lot more options available. Same thing, handstand push-ups. Well, you're limited on your range of motion right there. Do you really think a handstand push-up can compare with the ability to do a strict press or a push press? In terms of upper body development, you have more range of motion available. You have the ability to bring more muscle fibers and more muscles into the range of motion with a barbell than you do with a handstand push-up. Again, combined with the ability to micro-load. And again, someone is strong enough to do handstand push-ups with their body weight for half reps, they can probably simulate the same resistance with a barbell, although I wouldn't recommend that short of a range of motion. So again, even a handstand push-up, it's okay, but it doesn't compete with what you can do with a barbell when you start factoring in the range of motion, the ability to adjust the weight to fine-tune your programming, the exercise variation that you have available. There's no comparison between the two. And people will say, well, people can still make gains with them. Sure they can. But it's going to be a longer battle. And I understand all this calisthenics training, the way that it is today, a lot of it seemed to have come out of prisons, like penitentiaries where people didn't always have access to weights. And you know what? If you're in that situation, you have limitless time to do hundreds of dips because you don't have to work. You're stuck in there with nothing else to do. So you have food, you have unlimited recovery time, training time isn't an issue, and you don't even have access to barbells. By all means, make do with what you have, but don't expect it to give you the same potential progress. And just because someone has reached a goal doesn't mean another way isn't better. And what I mean is, if someone says they're trying to save $10,000, and another guy's trying to save $10,000, but one of them makes $15 an hour, and the other one makes $20 an hour. The one who reaches it with $15 an hour would argue that his way is superior because he saved up $10,000. Yeah, but the guy who makes $20 an hour is probably going to be able to save it up more quickly if all other factors are equal. The fact that you got there isn't proof that it's even remotely close to the fastest way available to do it. Faster and better is faster and better. Doesn't mean the other way doesn't work. It just means it doesn't work as well. And in this case, you simply do not have the same tools available. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.